Luna here, and welcome to Crit Roll Conspiracies. This is the first episode in a new series where we are going to put on our tinfoil hats and dive deep into the conspiracies that critters have about Campaign 3. Today we're going to look at both episode 1 and 2, but from then on, this will be coming out weekly, so if you want more, make sure you subscribe and you hit the notification bell. Plus, you can keep the conversation going in my Discord, where I have a special Crit Roll conspiracy thread where we can kind of discuss the week's theories and you can share any new ones that you come across or that you come up with yourself. It goes without saying that there are going to be a ton of spoilers in this video, so don't watch if you're not caught up yet. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to throw out my theory that Sam Riegel has once again introduced a character that seems like kind of a joke, but yet I am sure he is planning to tear all of our hearts into 1,000 pieces in 50 episodes time when we learn about whatever stuff he has put in his backstory. I don't trust this sunshiny demeanor about helping everybody. I don't trust it one bit. There was a lot of talk from Freshly Cut Grass in episode 2 about how, they should all be trusting each other and how they should all be telling each other their secrets and, always judge a book by its cover. I don't know. It just seems a little too squeaky clean for me. I don't trust it. I'm waiting for the reveal. This critter, Matthias K, hope I got that right, has theorized that Fresh Cut Grass, or FCG, has actually lost a lot of their memory and is missing kind of a big patch of time that's going to be revealed later. They say that it seems like FCG is kind of spotty about the time period, about when they were found in the silver mine by Ashton and how long it had been before that they were in this stasis mode. And it seemed that generally any time they were asked a specific question about the time period of something, that they were a little bit spotty on it and they kind of referred back to Ashton to answer those questions. They also speculated that FCG is missing part of his head. It looks like something has kind of been broken off, and we saw that Milo, one of the NPCs, had been working on FCG, so potentially helping him repair those things or help him with his memory. There's also been a lot of speculation about where FCG fits in terms of the automatons of Aor, which were talked about in Campaign 2. Is FCG from Aor? Was he created from someone there? We know that this campaign takes place roughly 8 years after the Mighty Nine, which isn't really a lot of time for this kind of new Aorian technology to make its way out into the world. But anything is possible, and maybe we're going to get some callbacks to Aor sometime, which I actually think would be so cool because it was so frustrating seeing the Mighty Nine go through that amazing, really cool area and not actually be able to spend any time there. Speaking of where Fresh Cut Grass was created, who is his creator? We know that their name was Dancer and that they named all of the robots after their favorite smells. Sam Riegel, you killed me with that moment. I like Bread a Bunch, which is a great username by the way. I also like Bread a Bunch. They theorized that Dancer is actually Kiri from Campaign 2 because Kenkus have shorter lifespans than other races, so within 8 years she would probably be, an adult Kenku. And she tinkers and she lives in Huppadook, so she would kind of have access to resources to make things. I do think that this one is a bit of a stretch, but I love Kiri so much that I am willing to give it some credence because that would be really fun. I don't know how I would feel though about Kiri calling one of them. I guess she probably picks it up from Jester though, to be honest. And one more theory about FCG's creator, posted by Black37 Star, and this one is really out there. They theorized that because FCG used a channel divinity feature, sympathetic binding, they kind of see that as being connected to the books The King Killer Chronicles by Pat Rothfuss, which has a lot of sympathy magic in it. So they theorized that Pat Rothfuss is going to come on the show as a guest to be Dancer as the creator of FCG. That seems very far out there, but after the stuff that Sam pulled last campaign, it wouldn't surprise me. Let's move on to Travis's character, Bertrand Bell. Now, I am not fully up to date on Campaign 1. Oh, I'm sorry. So I actually didn't realize at the time that Bertrand Bell is a character that Travis has played before. But it kind of lines up with the general thinking that this is not going to be Travis's main character. Bertrand is 2 levels above the rest of the party. He's level 5 when the rest are all level 3. And he definitely feels like a bit of a quest giver as opposed to a quest goer-oner. It does seem that Bertrand is sticking around for now. They've taken this contract from Lord Esteros, and it seems like he's staying with the party to complete it. But given the revelation that the history between Lord Esteros and Bertrand is that Bertrand abandoned his troop kind of deserted them and one of them died and all the others left. I think it's really setting it up that Bell is not going to stick around. He's either going to die in a combat or he's going to abandon the party once he's kind of gotten his share of like money and fame that he was looking for. I personally think that potentially this is going to be a way for Travis to sit out a few sessions. They did talk a lot about challenging our expectations and mixing things up, and I think we're going to see some cast members sitting out for short periods of time, rotating in and out. And so for Travis to kind of introduce a quest, then perhaps sit out a few sessions while the rest of the party completes this quest, and then come back in with a new character or with whoever his main character is going to be, that just kind of feels reasonable to me. But forget reasonable, we're not here for reasonable theories, we're here for wild theories. KBZ has suggested that Travis has a character who is using some subclass or class from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which only just came out last week and it was delayed. They theorized that potentially Travis is supposed to be playing one of the new dragon races from that book, but he was not able to because the book had not been released yet, and therefore it would be like breaking Wizards of the Coast like a non-disclosure agreement if he did play that character. So they've kind of put Bertrand in as a temporary character, and now that Fizban's is out and like people can freely talk about it and play it, that at some point he's going to be introducing a character from that book. I think that would be really cool. I would love to see some more tie-ins with Draconia and all of the like refugee settlements of the Dragonborn in Wildmount potentially could be coming from there. There's also been a lot of speculation that Travis's character is actually the Anger, who is somebody that Aurum is looking for. It's not really clear who this person is or why Aurum is looking for them, but it would be a really fun tie-in for the EXU characters and to be introducing Travis's, I guess, main PC. Max vs. the Games, though, suggests that the Anger is actually just another name for Grog, and Keyleth has sent Aurum on a mission to find the Anger, actually just looking for Grog. I mean, she's a very powerful druid. I feel like there are probably other ways for her to contact him, and I don't know why she wouldn't just call him by his name. But you know, there could be some kind of like top secret druid mission that Aurum is on, like who knows? Let's move on to a couple of theories about Ashton, who I am kind of obsessed with. He makes me feel like I'm back at uni at the uni bar wearing my like indie band grunge t-shirt, drinking $2 beers when I'm supposed to be in a lecture. Those are the days. There's been a lot of speculation about what Ashton's character design means, and Taliesin always puts a lot of thought into the design of his characters, and you know, it's probably a large percentage is just to mess with the cosplayers who now, by the way, are moving incredibly quickly. I don't know if you have seen the number of people who have already done full makeup looks with the like cracked skull with the opal, and people who've already made the like gemstone wig. I mean, the Critter cosplayers cannot be stopped. But it'll be really interesting to see what those character choices mean in terms of Ashton's backstory and general story moving forward. Fansub points out that Ashton has some meteors flying in the background of their animated character portrait, and that they also have gravity powers, and they generally just have like quite a sci-fi look about them. And because Genasi are often created from some powerful elemental influence, they're theorizing that a meteor shower or something occurred at the time of Ashton's birth, or perhaps resulted in the injury in their skull, and that is why they have their like gravity powers and just a general kind of spacey vibe. I think that's pretty cool and pretty fun, and I think anytime we talk about space stuff in Critical Role and all the critters are like, the moon! I think it would be a really fun tie-in. Maybe we'll get to go to the moon this campaign, who knows? James K had a theory that is really solid and one that I can absolutely get behind. They theorized that Taliesin is using Ashton to explore some themes that he'd planned on exploring in Campaign 2, but didn't get to because of the unfortunate demise of Molly. Molly was a character who literally crawled out of a grave and was kind of a reborn version of another character. James K talks about how there has been medical cases of when people sustain serious head trauma or head injury, that they often find a shift in their personality. Ashton could perhaps meet some old acquaintances who will be really surprised by his new demeanor and new personality. It might be a little bit too close to Molly's story to come up, but it's a really interesting comparison. And I also think it's just kind of indicative of people generally making characters that are some aspect of themselves, so often there are going to be like threads between the different characters. I don't know why you're looking at me like that. Just because I play socially anxious, goody two-shoe characters all the time who can't break any rules, it doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? Let's move on to my favorite theory, which comes from Tib21, and it's about Laudna and Imogen. There has been a lot of speculation that Laudner could be a Dampier. Is that how you say it? Dampiers have a hunger that they have to fulfill, and according to Van Richten's guide, one of those hungers can be telepathic energy or psychic energy or dreams. So Tib21 theorizes that Imogen, who clearly has some telepathic kind of psychic abilities which seem to overwhelm her at times. So there was one point where Laura made a wisdom save for Imogen because she opened her mind to the thoughts of people around her. So Tib21 is theorizing that Laudner is feeding off of the excess psychic energy that Imogen is giving, and they have this kind of symbiotic relationship, and that's why they've been traveling together. And I think that that is just so damn cool, and I really, really want it to be true. This is also kind of backed up by the idea that Laudner is a play on laudanum, which is a ye olde pain relief, essentially. So Laudner is kind of acting as this psychic pain relief for Imogen. That would be so cool! Does this mean that we're finally going to get a Marisha and Laura character ship? Is it going to happen? Please. I mean, in episode 2, we saw that Laudner and Imogen are clearly extremely close. They've clearly fought together before and used their abilities together before. Marisha described Laudner taking the dissonant whispers that Imogen had cast and using it to fuel her unsettling presence abilities. So there is clearly a really important connection there, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think it will lead to some really interesting character moments, especially if they have to split up or they end up on opposite sides of an issue. It's just gonna be real tasty. Well, we can't talk about Laudner without talking about the star of episode 2, which was Pade de Rollo, her dead rat puppet thing. I felt like I heard 1,000 critters yell out in unison, "Derolo!" as soon as she dropped the name. And it feels so different to Campaign 2, because I think in Campaign 2 they were so worried about differentiating it from Vox Machina and wanting it to be really different that they sort of never mentioned anything about Campaign 1. And they were always cagey anytime like Tal'Dorei was brought up, and you know, there was a few jokes here and there, but they clearly were trying really hard not to metagame. But in this one, there's just so much talk about all these ties to Campaign 1, and it's like, well, how do you know the Derollers? And how do you know the Derollers? And how do you know the Derollers? Even though I've only watched part of Campaign 1, I still found that really enjoyable. So this leads us to, how is Laudner connected to the Briarwoods and to the Derollers? She reveals that she was witness to the Briarwoods coming in and taking over Whitestone. But she didn't know that Percy eventually came back and, you know, Vox Machina kind of cleaned out the city. So there's something going on there with where she left Whitestone or she left Tal'Dorei and clearly didn't hear that news. You know, I imagine given the fame of Vox Machina, like, people would know about Whitestone, so it is really odd that she didn't know anything about it. I don't really know who necessarily posted this first, because it popped up immediately all over Twitter and Reddit, basically as soon as she started talking about her time in Whitestone. And there are a lot of ideas that the Briarwoods potentially killed Laudner, and then she came back as a reborn, which I don't really know very much about that. I know it's from one of the new source books, or she's come back as some other kind of undead. I have a feeling we're going to be digging a lot into that in this campaign. But I think it's also really wonderful the way Marisha has chosen to play this character. It seems like there's probably going to be a very dark and tragic backstory there, but she's playing her so peppy and sassy, and it's just very different from what you'd expect from the edgy goth character. So the timeline of this means that Laudner is probably like quite old, but I think I kind of had envisioned her as being a relatively young character. But if she was around when the Briarwoods took over Whitestone, that was around 40 years prior to the current events. So she's at least 40 years old, and probably older since she has some memory of Whitestone. I guess maybe if she's undead, she doesn't age anymore, so she just looks the same all the time. I don't know. What are you, Laudner? Tell us who you are! Well, what do you think? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And again, if you want to continue the conversation, jump into my Discord. There is a link down in the description below. I'm really excited to see what happens next, so I'll see you next week for episode 3. Bye!